may be less of a thing now, but the Big OE has been a long-running reality for generations of Kiwis and Aussies. And when you were young and prepared to cram as many people as possible into a house or apartment in London or New York, it's a whole bunch of fun to have the amenities of a big city literally outside your front door, and to have the convenience of, at most, a 15-minute commute to wherever you happen to be employed. For those young people who actually live in those countries, they know there will come a day when they want to have their own home. And they know that there is absolutely no doubt that they will never be able to afford a first home in the city centre. And they will have to move out to a suburb that will introduce the reality of commuting into their everyday lives. Nobody likes a long commute, especially when delays or accidents or maintenance work adds even more time to that daily journey. But in places like London or New York, it is expected, planned for, and inevitable. Auckland has almost doubled in size in the last 30 years, and its residents are going through a relatively fast education in the impacts of that on their day-to-day lives. 30 years ago, it was reasonable to expect that working in and around Auckland would involve a commute of maybe 20 minutes or less. Of course, for those of us living here during this time period, we have watched that ideal be slowly eroded. Effective public transport build-out has not been able to keep pace with this transition, and now, all over the city, every single working day for many involves a commute that few people actually enjoy. Auckland City Council have a number of planning cycles. We have studied many of the most recent of the documents that have been produced through all of this work, which is intended to underpin the growth of the city with the infrastructure that it needs in order to support the kind of lifestyle that its inhabitants and would-be inhabitants will find acceptable. We want to be very clear and say that we do understand the need for many of these plans and the cycles they need to go through. We live on a peninsula that has benefited enormously from people taking care and being precise with how the communities in which we now live have been instantiated and evolved. Inevitably, there are hiccups, but overall, this discussion is not implying or levelling criticism at our council of what has got us to this point. However, it is a bewildering set of documents to try and navigate. And in our study so far, we have come across several artefacts that are waiting for the completion of other planning cycles which have yet to conclude and therefore make their results available to other plans. One of those planning cycles looks out over the next 30 years, yes, 30 years, with the purpose of anticipating the investments that will be needed over the longer term so that planned capacity matches planned growth. Arguably, there are some places, due to their geographic location, that need careful attention paid to them, and one of those places is undoubtedly the Whangaparoa Peninsula, and in particular, the communities that are at the far end and furthest away from the mainland. Happily, careful attention was paid to Gulf Harbour, and in the 90s an integrated high-intensity community design, counterbalanced with zoned open space, was created. This open space included the golf course, which was deliberately protected in a legal agreement. The relatively recent acquisition of Gulf Harbour Country Club by a property developer flew in the face of that planning and, as a matter of fact, flew in the face of the legal agreement that protected the planning provisions made. Given the intent of that new owner to initiate a housing development across the whole golf course, it was evident that this was both in contravention of the plan for this part of the peninsula and also the legal covenant that prevented any housing development on the country club land. As we have seen with the letter sent by the Auckland Council CEO Phil Wilson to the owner, the council have every intention to uphold that legal provision, the encumbrance, and so preserve the original intent and plan. KWGS have been looking at a number of aspects of the plan with regard to road and wastewater infrastructure, and we have engaged planning specialists to help us to properly understand the different council plans that are in various stages of completion at this time. Some of you will have seen our earlier video which highlighted that there are already at least 1,400 additional new homes that are allowed for under the current plan in the Gulf Harbour area alone. We decided to cast the net a little wider and look at what is already planned to happen between the Coast Plaza precinct and the end of the peninsula. We wanted to assess the level of growth already planned for versus the growth that Auckland City Council is looking to support over the next 30 years. In this video, we will summarise our findings. In future live streams or videos, we will get into some more of the detail behind these 6 findings. The first finding that we discovered is that east of Whangaparoa town, i.e. roughly from Coast Plaza to the eastern end of the peninsula, it has sufficient land already zoned for residential use to meet 30 years of housing growth. I'd like to repeat that. Between Coast Plaza and the eastern end of the peninsula, there is sufficient land already available in the zone for residential dwellings to meet 30 years of housing growth. And that is without the significant densification opportunity provided by Plan Change 78, which is the name for the evolved Auckland Unitary Plan, which is yet to be finalised. And it's without recourse to the Gulf Harbour Country Club golf course land. For those of us who have been in conversations with friends from other parts of Auckland that have incorrectly assessed the residents of this part of the peninsula as being resistant to change and maybe labelled us as NIMBYs, it turns out that we are actually more than pulling our weight to support Auckland's growth. We already have the zoning and permissioning in place to support the next 30 years of growth. To be clear, this means that there is absolutely no case to create more land for housing between Coast Plaza and the end of the peninsula. None. Our second discovery is that the east of Whangaparoa Township roading infrastructure is currently at capacity for peak times, and the bands of peak times will grow. No economic roading solution is available to rectify this. If the road infrastructure were to be upgraded, it would be prohibitively expensive. There are no funds available for this. In any case, it would be seen as profligate for our council to approve spending hundreds of millions of dollars building out a road on the peninsula, while there are far more urgent infrastructure investments to be made in other parts of the Auckland Council domain and remit. Our third discovery is that wastewater treatment at Army Bay is close to capacity, and rerouting waste to Rosedale from Millwater, Milldale, Silverdale and Dairy Flat will most likely be required. Our discussion with industry experts is that the time frame, 5 to 7 years, and the cost, hundreds of millions of dollars, would be prohibitive, especially in the current economic climate. Our fourth area of review is around the Penlink connection from Stanmore Bay to State Highway 1. Penlink was justified primarily on alleviating congestion at the Silverdale State Highway 1 interchange to provide for growth in residential and commercial development along the State Highway 1 corridor. While Penlink will reduce travel times for east of Whangaparoa Township residents travelling south to Albany and the North Shore, it will not help alleviate capacity constraints on the Gulf Harbour to Whangaparoa Town Road. Our fifth area of review has to do with the likelihood of significant uptake of public transport to alleviate road congestion. There are a number of studies and papers that we are looking through at this time. Our early findings are that the people who live between Coast Plaza and the end of the peninsula will likely have a lower than Auckland average propensity to use public transport given the geographical constraints of the peninsula. Census data showing how self-contained the area is, with a very high work from home component and fairly high levels of people living and working within the area, underlines the reality that public transport is unlikely to be the magic wand to greatly increase our ability to move freely in our day-to-day lives. Our sixth review area is around the effects of the ferry service between Gulf Harbour and the city. The resumption of former levels of ferry services between the Central Business District and Gulf Harbour will certainly have a positive impact on road congestion. Our early analysis of the journeys undertaken by people on the peninsula suggests ferry services will help, but nowhere near solve the roading constraint. The 2018 census revealed 9% of all workers living on the peninsula work in the Central Business District, but 20% of all trips going outside the area go to the Central Business District, the vast majority of these for work and education. The census showed that overall the ferry accounted for 4% of all travel for work and education. So look, in summary, we can see that the growth of Auckland is moving some distance ahead of its ability to provide the infrastructure and services needed to support that trajectory. And we are all living at a time where the need for housing and all that goes with it means that the lifestyle of many will be disrupted, and that many lovely leafy suburbs will have to accept that growth changes things. Here on the peninsula, we absolutely do not think that we have some right to be exempt from the pain of that growth. But what our studies are showing is that we are some way ahead in terms of providing land for housing to support the 30-year growth aspirations for our city. We are already pulling our weight and more, probably more than most other areas of the city. We are far from trying to stop reasonable expansion in our backyard. Indeed, we have embraced it and are way ahead of that planning curve. The Gulf Harbour Country Club golf course land is protected by a 999-year encumbrance that says the land must remain zoned open space and be used solely for golf or country club purposes as part of that plan. Auckland Council has said it will uphold this encumbrance, and the latest plans we can review, PC 78, show the golf course land retaining its open space zoning. We are appreciative that Auckland Council's planners have recognised this in the latest plans. Our initial findings therefore suggest that there is absolutely no case for making additional land available for residential housing between Coast Plaza and Gulf Harbour for at least the next 30 years. We will be back with more detail on these 6 areas over the coming weeks. At KWGS, we are staying closely involved. Keep Whangaparoa Green Spaces was formed in 2021 by a group of Peninsula locals when Greg Oliver first bought the golf course. They were suspicious that he would not be committed to running the golf course and maintaining this invaluable community asset. They believed that he would only be interested in closing the course to build houses, given his property development background. We have already represented everyone on the peninsula at council meeting of the Parks and Recreation Committee and presented a petition signed by almost 5,000 residents of the community. We have urged the council to maintain its stance on the encumbrance that is essential to preserve the quality of life that all residents of the peninsula, not just the residents of Gulf Harbour, and indeed not just its golfers, currently enjoy. Most importantly, you can get involved. First of all, if you can find the time to go to www.kwgnz.org, you can sign up for email updates, and we will be coordinating both communications and preparing actions that we can take as a community. Secondly, if you subscribe to this YouTube channel, you will be able to see all of the videos that we create. And if you press the notifications bell, then you will be notified when a new video update is available for you to watch. If you like the video, then YouTube will learn that there are people who are interested in this channel and it will be easier to find. There is no charge to you for doing any of this, and we maintain the highest standards of privacy and security with the information that you give to us. Thank you for watching this video. We will do our best to keep you up to date with developments that affect all of us as residents of this wonderful community on the Whangaparoa Peninsula.